Okay, so the goal today is to switch out the faceplate and the switch. This is an older switch, and so we're going to just talk about how to switch it. This is kind of interesting. We're going to talk about a single pole and then a three-way switch, because you can see that when I switch it, those lights turn off, right? But what makes it a three-way pole is that there's two switches that actually carry that light. So this is what I'm switching out to, are paddles, that is. And if I shut it off, then it shut those off, right? So anyway, I'm switching them out. So if you're wanting to get information on wiring a brand new switch, that's not this video. This video is strictly about replacing switches that already exist. The tools that you need in order to do this job is a screwdriver, straight screwdriver Phillips. One of these guys to poke out the wire on the back, depending on how it's put together. I'll show more about that in a second. You'll need a pair of good wire snippers, not stupid ones that come in the pack of 195 tools. Just go get a good one, and then some needle nose pliers, and I'll show those in a second. Okay, so let's kind of go through this a little bit. We've already taken the two ground wires out, and you can see these are both three-way switches. So let's talk a little bit about a three-way switch and a two-way switch. So first off, if you look at the front of these paddle switches, there's not really a lot to determine them, right, whether they're two or three-way switches. But if you turn them over and you look, it's pretty clear that there's an extra terminal right here. So this has two terminals and the ground. This has three terminals and the ground. So obviously this is a single pole because it goes from the power to the light. This is what they call a three-way pole because there's two switches and power to the light, right? And so if you have two different source switches that turn on a light, you need a three-way switch. If you have only one light switch that turns on the power, you just need a single pole, right? So if you look at a box, on the box it's going to be clearly marked down here whether it's a three-way or a four-way or a single pole. So in this case, if I look at the back of this, I can clearly see that I have three terminals, right? And I'm off and running. Now, the important thing to note is when you look at this, there's one black one and then two brass ones. And the black one is the one you have to pay attention to, because this is where the power comes in. These two are called travelers. And so if you look up here, a lot of times you say, oh, where's the black? That's the hot one. Where's the white? That's the neutral. Well, in a three-way switch, that's not how it works, right? So if you look at this was white, and they put some blue paint on it just to be sure when they originally wired the house. And here's black and red, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, what's hot? Well, in this case, obviously, the first thing you're going to want to do is tap out the line, right? So in this case, obviously, I've already done this because I'm sitting here playing around with it. When you want to tap it out, make sure that it's zero, that your juice is off. Make sure you do that. And then the thing that you need to do, the way I usually do this, is that I know that the black is hot. I ignore all the colors and focus on this, right? Just ignore the colors, focus on the black. Okay, so every once in a while, you're going to end up in a situation where you don't know which one of these is hot, right? So on a three-way, your hot one has to go to the black one, as we've already talked about. Well, if you don't pay attention when you take things off, you have three wires here. And in that case, which one goes to that black terminal, you can only determine that by actually tapping them out, right? So in this case, I've got my little meter, and if I say, okay, I'm going to hold the ground, and I'm going to tap that one, it's still zero. So that's a traveler. If I touch this one, still zero, that's a traveler. And if I touch this one, you can see the numbers go way up. That one's my hot. So this one has to go in that hole right there because it's connected to the black cable. The other two go into the other. So if you lose focus when you're doing this and you forget which one to go where, you're going to have to turn the juice back on, find the hot cable, put the hot cable in the black one, and then you're off and running again. If you get that part right, then changing out older switches, in this case is an older switch. I don't want to have to hit that any longer. I want to have the great big paddle switch to click. A lot easier to hit this little guy. So the only thing I do is I hook up the grounds first, because in this case I just want to make sure that they're hooked up correctly. And I use a couple of different things. I use a pair of pliers, and I use a needle nose or a plus Phillips. Now on these, because I'm not going to use the turnaround on the poles, I'm just going to take them off, and then I'm going to screw these in so that they don't have a chance to touch anything else in the box. So I'm just going to push it way in like that. And then you'll also notice that when you look at the back of this, not only do I have 3 terminals, but what else do you see in there, right? If you look here, did he wrap them around the terminals? Nope, he didn't. He pushed them in the back. And so when you look here, you just have to be cognizant that there are 2 terminals and 2 holes. 1 terminal and 1 hole. Just keep the side squared away. So you can either wrap the black wire around that or simply push it in that hole. Then you're off and running. So again, the way I do this is I work with the grounds first, because I like to make sure the ground is good and solid. So I'm going to take my needle nose pliers, I'm going to turn that around, and I'm just going to turn it on like that, and then I'm going to rotate that so I can see it. That's the easiest way for me to do it. And then I'm going to pinch that down, because the last thing I want to do is have that ground loose in my box, because if I do, then it's going to undoubtedly make connections with one of these terminals, and it's going to pop it. So this one, same thing. I'm just going to hook it up there. I'm going to twist it around so I can see it. Pinch it shut. And then I'm going to use my Phillips and screw it down good and tight. Okay, now that that's in there, I'm going to screw this side down because I'm not going to go around the terminal. I'm going to push them in. Squared. So I've got 2. These are the ones I'm getting rid of. Now the second point here is to say, how much wire do I have, right? There's supposed to be a little quick release, and you're supposed to be able to take a screwdriver and push that in there and pull these out. But it takes forever to do that, and it really doesn't work very often. So I'm just going to cut it because I have plenty of wire to restrip it. So focus, focus, focus. The important thing is, where's the black? So now that I've identified where the black pole is, I'm going to clip that one off, move it out of the way. I'm going to strip the wire back, and again, you want a good pair of these. Don't get a cheesy pair, get a good pair. Now once you have that done, you have to find the black terminal, and then just grab that, push in with your needle nose pliers, and then give it a tug back to make sure you actually have it connected. That's the most important step. If you get that right, then you'll never have a problem. Then you can snip both of these, get rid of the old one, bring them back out again. In this case, this is 14 gauge wire, so I'm going to go about that far. Get rid of that one. Again, go about that far. Get rid of that one. Take these, grab my wire. Doesn't matter which one goes in where, because they just travel. That's called a traveler. Right, so I'm going to take that wire and push it in that hole right there. Give them both a tug. Good to go. So that one's ready to go. And then I'm going to do the same thing here again. Remember, you're looking for the black one, and you're going to do the black one first. That's the most important thing. Choose whatever the shorter wire is, put it down the bottom because that'll make it easier. Give it a good push. Same thing here. Just grab it, push it in, give it a back pull. Okay, we're good to go. Now we're just going to line these little puppies up. We're going to roll them back into the box. Again, try and make sure there's nothing that's going to contact your terminals. And then grab that. Line up the bottom. Get it started. Grab that one. Push. And grab the bottom one. Grab the top one. Now the last thing to do is kind of pull these straight while you still have a little play, so that when they go into the box, they're good and straight into the box. Okay, last thing is to grab our faceplate, grab the screws out of the faceplate, one more in there, we got it, and then just make sure that these are in the right spot. That popped on rather nicely, so I'm going to give this a little bit more of a tight twist, moving a little bit on me there. I always like to leave my screws pointing straight up and down. So we'll make sure that looks good there. Okay. So, again, we went from having this type of a switch to now having the paddle switches. A lot easier to hit, work a lot better.